Okay, to be fair, dentists aren't all that great with hearing people either, because honestly, why do these people think that anybody can talk with a bunch of tools in their mouths? Hello and welcome back to the channel and Vlogmas. So today I want to talk about the dentist. For the first time in 2 years, because I don't have dental insurance anymore, I went to the dentist because it was just time and I may as well bite the bullet. So I did. And I got a cleaning and I was both upset and somewhat impressed by the fact that all I had was slight inflammation up here and one very small cavity in between my teeth, which that's mainly the part that I was upset about. But considering I hadn't gone in 2 years, one cavity is not bad because I've had more while I had dental insurance and was going to the dentist regularly. But can we talk about going to the dentist as a deaf person, please? So any profession with a mask is basically torture to us because we can't attempt to lip read. So now I've said this before, I can't really lip read very well. If I'm lip reading, I'm trying to use the very little hearing that I have left and then put pieces together and also read body language and whatnot. But here's the thing, you can't do that when they have a mask on and when they're also busy with their hands because they're using tools and whatnot, so they can't do anything. And that's when I think, oh god. But let's start from the beginning of the things that make dentists not our best friends. One, when they open the door to call your name out, and there's deaf written all over your file, but they still insist on opening the door, and right before they open the door, they start to say your name. So then when they finally, they're showing their faces, they're already done with your name and you don't really know. You don't really know that they're calling for you. Now the good thing is, if you're the only one in the waiting room, you kind of already know, but when there's more than one person, you kind of just sit there awkwardly and you're like, okay, you're not moving. I guess that's my turn. And then you get up slowly. Sometimes you're successful, and then sometimes they decide they want to get up at the same time, and then you're like awkwardly sitting down because then you realize, nope, that's not my appointment. But then the main thing is, you have no idea what's going on the second that mask goes on. You can't hear anything that they're saying. So me being paranoid, I'm thinking, oh no, there's something completely wrong with my mouth. I have no idea what they're doing, and that was just the cleaning part, so I got very, very nervous. But now let's get to the cavity part, because then just a couple of days ago, I went back to the dentist to get the cavity filled. I had a brand new doctor, and then there was a brand new assistant I've never met. It's been 2 years. There's bound to be some changes or some additions to the office, right? But I could not understand this guy. I had no idea what his speech patterns were and how he moved his body and whatnot. Of course he knew I was deaf. It's written all over my file. I made them be very sure about that. He wasn't too bad, alright? He tried to use some hand gestures, and then he also was trying to ask, he was like, hey, how do you sign okay? So I said, sign it, okay. I also said you can just do this because it's a thumbs up, it's a universal gesture. Then he told me that he also works in Morganton, where a North Carolina school for the deaf is, and he has a lot of deaf patients. To which I thought, why don't you know any basic signs or hand gestures or different ways of trying to communicate with me besides trying to talk with that mask on your mouth? No, but really he was a very, very nice guy, but oh man. But then when you get the tools in, so not only do they have a mask on and they're trying to talk to you, but then they got tools in, and then they're trying to get you to talk to them back. So I'm looking at him like I can't even say, I have no idea what you're telling me because you have this thing all over your face, right? And oh goodness, just why? And they had a new way of doing cavities too. So imagine me getting very scared because I've had a lot of cavity procedures done. So I know how everything is supposed to go. But this is the brand new thing. And I think it was just because I got a cavity in between my teeth and not really on the outside of my teeth where most of my cavities were, or on the very bottom. This was straight up right in between my teeth. But they had these brand new tools and this weird matrix band thing that they actually had flattened out, and then they shoved it right in there, and then they were doing things, and it was the most uncomfortable experience ever. But I had no idea what was going on. I honestly thought that this was a new doctor and a brand new, like, student who had no idea what they were doing. And I was so convinced that they were going to screw up this cavity because I had no way of, like, actually... I had no real way of being like, hey, how is this procedure being done? What are you doing? Because my mouth is numb. There's cotton balls and like 3 different pieces of metal shoved in my mouth, and then these people are like off doing something and then have a mask on. And this is why the clear mask is a very good invention, and this video is not sponsored by them, although we have been working together in ways. But you know, it has a mask and most of it is clear, so you can attempt, if you're a deaf person who is good at lip reading or decent, then you have a better chance of it, you know, understanding what's going on. And you may be asking, why didn't you get an interpreter? Well, I never required or I never requested an interpreter for appointments before. I guess just because I thought I was getting my regular dentist and I knew the procedure already. It was just like, I don't really feel like I need it. I'm just gonna go in, they're gonna do the same thing they've always done, and then I'm gonna walk right out, right? But yeah. Also, I imagine it would be really hard to see the interpreter anyways when you're laying down and then the 2 actual, like, dentist workers are above you and you can't see anything. Like, how am I supposed to see the interpreter where they're probably, like, standing in the corner? I can't even see them. Has anybody who has gone to the dentist had an interpreter with them? Doctors, gynecologists, I can see it because you're not having anybody, like, really in your face. But I'm trying to imagine how the dentist would work given where everyone else is placed in the room. Oh, also, I did have a new assistant when I went in for my cleaning because my usual lady was booked through March. That was a really, really nice lady. Also told her, well, she knew I was deaf. Again, it's on my file. And, you know, she did a lot of hand gestures. She was very patient with me. And, you know, if I didn't understand something, she would repeat herself. And also, like, in the middle of procedure, she always remembered. I think except once, but then she was like, oh, wait, hold on a second. But she would always pull her mask down and, you know, like, hand gesture and whatnot. And it was really, really cool. So that was good. Overall, dentists are not really your best friends, not because they're mean or whatnot, but just because the tools that they have just aren't really that deaf-friendly. The whole mask and, you know, they're not friendly to hearing people or anybody because of tools in your mouths. And even if you were to sign back to them, like, how could you? Because they're basically, like, hovering over you and you can't even move your arms. I could barely move my arms in fear that I would hit them, and then if they had a tool in my mouth that they would, like, cut something in my mouth, and that's not what I want to happen. Fellow deaf people, let me know about your experiences at the dentist. I would love to know, and again, if you have used an interpreter, I'd love to know how you made that work, because I'm very curious. As always, I very much appreciate you watching, but now, before you go, if you haven't, consider being a pledge on Patreon. It's a great way to support your favorite creators' content. From me, you get perks like music playlists, written pieces you won't see anywhere else, and if you pledge high enough, pen pal letters, and little other things here and there. And I will see you later.